Welcome back to the Bearded Console Gamer, and today we'll be talking about Warner Bros. Montreal's newly announced title, Gotham Knights. More specifically, I'll be taking you through which elements of the new 52 Batman comics that it would be awesome to see included in the new game. Needless to say, we are in major spoiler territory, so stop watching if you're unfamiliar with the Batman Court of Owls comics and want to go into the game blind. In this episode, we'll be drawing on content from the new 52 Court of Owls collection, where the titular cult make their first appearance in the Batman universe, and also the City of Owls storyline. I'll also be doing follow-up videos in the future covering other later appearances of the court in comics and how they might influence the game. If you enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe as it's a new channel and it really helps out. In an official PlayStation blog published last week, we were told that Gotham Knights is going to have a heavy emphasis on the city's 350-year history. But how could the Court of Owls, a shadowy organisation that has shaped the city from the shadows with a fetishistic love of owls, make its presence known on the upcoming digital world? Well, here are my crunchy takes on what the talented folks from Warner Bros. Montreal are likely to include from comic lore in Gotham Knights. First up, here's a basic primer on what the cult is. The Court of Owls is known in Gotham's myths and legends as an omnipresent, sinister organisation that lurks in the shadows and manipulates and twists the city's fortunes and destiny either behind the scenes or more forcefully by deploying their legendary enforcer assassins, known simply as the Talons. The old nursery rhyme that's repeated masterfully throughout the comics goes like this: "Beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadowed perch behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth, they watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send the Talon to take your head." There aren't any solid indications of when exactly the game is set in the Court of Owls storyline, or even how close the devs will incorporate the source material, but one thing I think is sure to be embedded throughout the open world of Gotham Knights is the Court's secret nests. In the new 52 comics, the Court of Owls constructed hidden lairs throughout Gotham which served as bases of operations for the Talons. I'd bet the life savings of my tiny subscriber base that these nests will be dotted around the sprawling city map, and that a fair chunk of the game could involve rooting out and destroying the Talon bases. These climactic events could potentially trigger a confrontation with the super assassins and also give valuable information as to the court's history and operations. Speaking of the ritualistic, cult-like nature of the court, I think it would be a huge mistake not to include the massive underground labyrinth that was constructed beneath Gotham by the group, both as a monument to themselves and their mastery of the city, and also as a Minotaur-like maze through which residents of Gotham who had caused problems for the court could be hunted down by the Talon of that age. In the Court of Owls collection, Batman himself is hunted through the maze and nearly broken both physically and mentally. As the Dark Knight frantically moved through the trap, we got a look at the macabre trophies, relics, and even a miniature-scale city of Gotham that the court had curated, all of which were designed to unravel the victim's mind as they fled through the maze. At one point, a desperate Batman drunk from the drug-laced water of a fountain, causing him to hallucinate. This could make for an awesome Scarecrow-like bit of gameplay in Gotham Knights. The court had intended to display Batman's bones in the maze, and it would be a nice nod to see a member of the Bat family rediscover the site and stumble across a reference to Batman's time in the labyrinth. Another location important to the court was the Harbour House building located on Gotham's south side. Bruce Wayne discovered this building while desperately searching for proof that the legendary cult was behind the death of his parents, and was drawn to it because most of the powerful families he suspected had belonged to the club at one point or another. In his childhood, his search of Harbour House proved fruitless, and almost fatal, but while hunting down the newly revealed Cult of Owls following the assault on Wayne Manor, the adult Batman's instincts led him back to the dilapidated building, only to find it a fully fledged meeting place for members of the court who had seemingly that evening taken their own lives. It feels like a perfect location for a Talon encounter, and speaking of Talons, it'll be fascinating to see how these OP monsters are actually going to be implemented in Gotham Knights. In the comics, they're phenomenally strong, well-trained, powerful enemies, each of which have their own identity denoted from the armour and weaponry they wield, which is itself a reflection of the fact that each Talon was created to serve the court in a distinct era. This presents interesting possibilities for varying Talon combat encounters and forcing you, the player, to come up with new and inventive ways to take them down. By the way, the Gotham Knights reveal trailer showed us that the court has a ridiculous amount of Talons still on ice, and I'm super encouraged by the character design of those we saw. They look pretty faithful to the comics. But the Talons are an almost unbeatable enemy, not just because they're in peak physical condition and can turn you into a pincushion with throwing knives and other pointy boys. No, the main strength of the Talons is their ability to heal super fast from injuries that would cripple an ordinary mortal. The only way to temporarily defeat a Talon is to beat it so savagely that it's literally too broken to fight, or to disable their healing factor by radically dropping the temperature in the surrounding environment or in the body of the Talon itself. Later on in the game, this could be possible as the Bat family develops bespoke tech to deal with the assassins, but I suspect that the early encounters are going to involve fleeing as fast as possible. Their seemingly unstoppable nature could even lend itself to some tense horror-like gameplay, though I doubt that's the direction WB Montreal are going to go. On a similar hopeful note, the talent's healing factor could also give rise to a Shadow of Mordor-style nemesis system, wherein opponents remembered how they fared in previous battles and maybe learned from them, but again, that's wishful thinking. It'll also be interesting to see how they handle the fact that Dick Grayson, aka the former Robin and current Nightwing at the time of the game, was himself destined by the court to be their next Talon. Every decade, the Court of Owls selects one child from a group of athletes presented by Haley's Circus, of which young Dick Grayson was a member, and implants a false tooth of an element called electrum in their mouths. Over time, this element seeps into the child's body and transforms them on a cellular level. This grants them extraordinary strength and healing capabilities, and also allows them to be revived by the cult after generations, albeit with the help of a formula concocted by Dr. Freeze. Beyond being picked as a future Talon himself, Grayson also has a great uncle who was an assassin for the court. This Talon, called William Cobb, was the suited enforcer that hunted Batman through the court's maze, and was later put on ice. At this point, we don't know whether the Nightwing in Gotham Knights is aware at the beginning of the game that he's been marked by the cult, or whether he'll discover it as the game unfolds. Regardless, it'll be interesting to see how other members of the Bat family deal with that information. We could even see a Nightwing come to blows with his reanimated great-grandfather, which would be awesome. Speaking of Talons from the comics, I'd like to see Lincoln March, who also goes by the name Thomas Wayne Jr., make an appearance. March believes himself to be, and could actually be technically, Bruce Wayne's biological brother, though there is a lot of ambiguity there. Regardless, he was a member of the court and later donned the newest generation of Talon armor to go toe-to-toe with the Dark Knight. He's a super messed up villain with an amazing backstory who'd make for a hell of a boss fight. Also, he can fly. An interesting side note, at the end of the City of Owls storyline, most of the Talons that we know about will move to a Wayne-funded crypto prison underneath Blackgate Penitentiary. If the court were able to disrupt the cooling system there, they'd be able to reclaim their assassins and put them to use against the Bat family. But that's only if Gotham Knights is set after the events of the City of Owls. By the way, if the giant armoured batsuit used by Wayne to defeat the court during their assault on Wayne Manor doesn't somehow make its way into the game at some point, well, let's just say that Warner Bros. Will be receiving some extremely pissy emails. Finally, despite everything from the trailer, blog posts, and the official Knights Twitter account, my prediction is that Batman isn't dead at all and will appear near the climax of the game. Better yet, he could have been captured by the court and somehow brainwashed and transformed into a Talon for the final boss fight. And that's everything for now. Let me know in the comments section if there's anything else from the Court of Owls or City of Owls comics that you'd like to see in the game, and as ever, please like, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell for more gaming news, reviews, and roundups.